Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Alex. Let me introduce myself in case you haven't been in one of my other classes or on one of our on-ground classes. My name is Alex Cooper. I teach the computer classes for the Columbia County Library in Evans, the Harlem Library, Uchi Creek, now the Grovetown Library in Evans, Georgia, and CSRA. So, welcome, welcome. We're, of course, at home, being safe and everything. Doing our classes now at home. So we don't have any on-ground classes going on. So we're just doing our being safe, staying home and everything. And very glad that you're here with me today. Now, about a month or so ago, we actually switched over to here on YouTube. So do realize to be able to make comments and everything in the chat, you do need to be logged into YouTube to be able to say hello, to subscribe, and all that kind of good stuff. So before we get started, I'll ask the question I always ask. In today's class is our Word 2019 Basics. We're going to cover learning using the keyboard, changing fonts, text size, copy paste, inserting images, saving ink when we're printing, and also we'll talk about some new features that we have with 2019, the newest version of the Office Word in the Office Suite. So I'll go ahead and start off by saying please post any questions you have into the chat, of course. And the next question I always ask is, how can I help? So you've come to a class, wanted to learn a little bit more about a program or something, and just want to know, how can I help? Okay, so definitely feel free to post any comments in the chat. I'll say welcome, welcome. So I'll disappear for a second so that you can see our schedule for the next week and the rest of the month. So tomorrow we're going to be doing Excel, and Thursday we'll be doing PowerPoint at the same times. Now tomorrow morning we're going to be doing Raspberry Pi computing projects live with me, Alex. So that's a class to look forward to. We're going to be trying to finish up a project that we worked on before with our little music GPIO pen music box. And we'll also be doing that on Thursday morning at 11 o'clock as well. So we'll continue those projects forward and see how far we can get finishing them up. So hopefully you'll come to the Excel class tomorrow and also the class on Thursday as well. Now near the end of the month, starting the 22nd, we're actually going to start our photography classes, photography basics, fundamentals, and cloud backup. And also we're going to be doing advanced photo editing. And if you've been in that class before, we're going to be doing our photo editing, getting rid of blemishes and everything. But also we've updated that class to include layers. Used to we talked about scrapbooking, and now virtual scrapbooking is going to get its own class. We're talking about photography, printing, and virtual scrapbooking. So come join me for that. And then we'll be finishing up the month for our afternoon classes for the Columbia County Library, creating videos and editing basics using our Windows, our free program that comes with Windows, the Microsoft Photos app. Okay. Also at 11 o'clock, we'll be doing a gadget help on the 23rd, and then we'll be doing on 11 o'clock on the 30th, cutting the cable. So come and join me for that. We'll be talking about all kinds of new stuff, Peacock, the Pluto TV, all that stuff. And then we'll be doing a chess and near the end of the month as well on the 24th. Just to let you know, our libraries are open with limited services and hours. Curbside holds pickup is available. It's a wonderful service. Make sure to thank your librarians for doing that. You can go to gchrl.org for details, or you can call into the library with questions Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel here as well. Give us a like on our videos. And also, if you're looking for our channel, easiest way to find it is GCHRL Videos, and it'll pull right up. We don't have a permanent name for our channel yet. We have to get 100 subscribers to be able to get a permanent address. So please hit subscribe so we can reach that goal and get our own permanent address. So let's go ahead and flip back here. And let's talk about what we're going to cover today. We're going to be covering our Microsoft Word. So I'll come back. Yay, I'm back. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Definitely feel free to kind of post our videos and share them with friends or family as well. So I will go ahead and The big question I'll ask is, what's your experience with Word? What have you done in the past with it? Is there any kind of project that you're working on? And if you come to the live classes, that's a big one because I can, answer any questions that you do have. All right, so give me 1 second here. I did find out a new feature I'm going to talk about tomorrow, which should be fine. Okay, so go ahead and I will post this in the chat. Well, I'll do that at the end so we can kind of, well, let me see if I can do that now. All right, give me 1 second because I have to post that in the chat. I have to have a different window of it. Sorry. Okay, I'll work on that, but at least we've got our handout ready and we can go ahead and get started. So I will post that so you can have that later. So basically, welcome. Very glad you're here. Now, one of the things is, so I'll go ahead and talking about that now, and then we'll talk about what we're going to cover. The big thing is, a lot of people say, what's the difference between Office 365 and, of course, Microsoft 2019? Well, Microsoft 2019 in the Office suite is basically something that you can purchase, okay? A lot of us, if we have friends or family member that either work at a school or can get like a student discount in a way, usually there's more than one user they can have. So that allows you to have more than one or can install it on your computer because there's just more than one license with those. So if you can do that, you can get that, and it's a permanent version, okay? It'll keep getting updated. Now, the 365 is something that a lot of businesses are signing on for now. So that you can share stuff. You have a cloud section to post stuff to. And the other thing about that is you can actually have whole teams work on projects together as well, okay? But the Microsoft Word 2019, the big thing about that is it's something that you'll have, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and it doesn't cost any more, the subscription. Once you buy it, you buy it. And you probably, if you've been doing computers for a while, you may have some older versions of Word or Office like 2010 or something like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's talking about what we're going to cover today. So our objectives today is, of course, we're going to start with the basic stuff. And like I said, I'll talk about a few of the little extra things that we have going on at the end here that's a little bit more unique to 2019. So we have starting a Word document, okay? We'll start talking about different ways that we can save. We'll talk about undo and redo. Undo and redo is undo's my favorite button, okay? We'll talk about some basic typing with our keyboard. We'll talk about zooming in on text so you can control what you see. And we'll talking about our tabs and changing font styles, font sizes, color, bold, italics, and underline. Okay. We'll talk about using paragraphs and alignment. And like I said at the end, I'll talk about a little bit of extra that Microsoft has added to this version of Word. We'll talk about using spell check, which has gotten a little bit better. And I'll give you the big thing here about how to use bullet points. Okay. So if you've ever had any kind of projects where you had to do a table of contents or anything, had to add bullet points to something, we're trying to figure out how to control the bullet points, you're in the right place because I'm actually going to give you the secret to control the bullet points and the numbering so that you're not hitting delete and it's kind of jumping around, okay? We'll talk about cut and paste or copy and paste. And we'll start talking about our spell check, and we'll insert an image, resize our image, and I'll give you the big tip I can give you about working with images with Word in general. Now, I will tell you, and you'll see in the handout, I actually make the handout using a PowerPoint. PowerPoint's a little bit more friendly with images, but if you still just want to insert a few images in a document, I'm going to give you the big secrets on how to do that. Okay, so it'll make it very easy, but you have to control basically how Word views the picture. Okay, and then we can move it around anywhere we want. We can have it in front of text, behind text. We can have it interact with the text, so if we want it to, if we have a picture that has a shape. So we'll talk about editing and a lot of things that you can do in Word and PowerPoint to edit the image that you don't have to take it into a photo editing software or anything. Okay, and we'll talk about printing. We'll talk about templates to kind of get you ready, and we'll have some extra help and tips too. Some free resources. One resource is really big for the library. They do like 10, 12-hour classes on Word or Word Advanced or anything like that. So they definitely cover a lot more than we will in our little 2-hour class here. But definitely feel free to ask any questions, and I'll help in any way I can. And there we go. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So let's go ahead and start talking about starting Word. Now you probably have Word as a icon in the desktop. And one of the things is I'll bring up something and then, hang on, make that go away. One of the things is I'll bring up something, there we go. I'll bring up something in the handout, and then I'll kind of walk through it, and then we'll kind of jump back in and talk about it, okay? So basically we're going to start Word. Now, there's many ways that we can start Word. We're starting to get to making it more easy. Starting to make it so I think it's a little bit easier if we just kind of do the search to find programs or documents, okay? But if you have, of course, the Word icon on the desktop, you do a left mouse click, a double click, quick click, a click click, and that'll get Word started. The other way that we can do it, we can actually search here, type in Word. With our Windows 10, Word will pop right up, and we just click where it says Word right there. Remember, the box that's open lets you search here in Windows 10. You can search for programs and you can search for files too. So we have our Word pop up. Let's go back to our handout. Hang on. So we basically have Word pop up. Used to, we would automatically be put in with the blank document, but we don't have that anymore. Okay. We actually have to choose. So when we look at we'll actually get document. We'll get a whole bunch of stuff like suggestions. So these are the templates we're going to talk about later. We also, when we look down here, we'll see most recent. These are most recent documents that we've opened. You can click here to do a search. Remember, this search is the same as actually searching down here for a file or a program. So it's gotten a lot easier than it used to. So let's go ahead and let's click where it says blank document. And here we are. Now if we go back to our handout, we actually choose blank document. We actually see, hang on. I can see up here where it says File, Home, Insert, Draw, Design, Layout, References, Mailing, Review, and View. Okay. Now, at any time, if you are in Word and you want to start a new document, click File and then click New, and then it'll start a new document. So let's go ahead and let's save our document. Now, since 2013's version, we actually have one more step, which makes it a little bit easier. We'll have one more step. It doesn't make it easier, it's just one more step. We click File, we click save, and then we need to click the box that says browse. Okay, that'll actually pop up the dialog box that we're kind of used to. So let's go ahead and save our document. Now with our newer version here, we actually have up here where it says auto save. I do recommend this being turned on. Now I won't go into what OneDrive is too much, but I'll just briefly say OneDrive is Microsoft's cloud service. You could subscribe to that if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. The only thing is, if you don't and it keeps saying something to the effect of your cloud service, your OneDrive is full, then don't worry about it. You can actually go into the settings and turn off OneDrive completely. If you are using the Office 365, like if you're business or you subscribe to that, then it will also back it up to the OneDrive as well, and you have more space than the free version, but it should be auto saving, and that's what this does up here. Okay, so not only is it saving to the computer, but it's also saving to the cloud in case something did happen to your computer. But let's go ahead and let's hit File. We'll get these full screen menus pop up. Let's go down where it says Save. And instead of choosing all this other options, I'm just going to click where it says Browse. So let's click where it says Browse. And we kind of get our classic dialog box pops up. And one of the things is to remember is with Word, Microsoft, and Excel, when we hit Save, it first wants to try to save into the Documents folder, which is what we want. Microsoft has set that up for us to be able to save our documents, and that's where we want to save. Makes it easy. So if you're looking for something later, you look in the Documents folder. Now right now the name is blue, so I don't have to type in anything. I can actually just start typing. I don't have to click anything. I can just start typing, and we're actually going to call this, today is September 8th. So let's call it class, I will say 982020. Okay. Now the name of the file is very important because the longer you give a name, the more detailed, the easier it'll be to find later. Okay. It will be saving it as a docx file. So if you ever see that anywhere, you're wondering what that is, that's just what they call an extension, and that just tells the computer what program that file goes with. Okay. So after we type that in, put spaces in there. If there's anything that the computer won't allow, like question marks or anything like that, or you put the / or / and it doesn't like it, just correct that, and then you can hit enter or save. Okay. Then when we hit save, we go back up to the top of our document, and you can see where it says class 9/8/2020. There you go. I saved my document. Let's go back to any questions so far. I do know there's a little bit of delay. It's like a minute or two of the chat, so definitely feel free to post any questions in there. And let's go ahead and let's go to our next page here. And I go ahead and talk about this just to begin with, our undo and redo button. So if you're not too familiar with that, go ahead and get very friendly with the undo button. Basically, what does the undo button do? What does the undo button do? Okay. Undo button. Undo button is if you make a mistake, you want to go back one step, you click the undo button once. If you want to go more, there's a little drop down arrow here you can click, and it'll show more steps back. Okay, so you're undoing what a mistake is, or what if you erase something wrong. Now what does the redo button do? The redo button actually goes forward one step since you hit the undo button. So the tongue twister is you can only redo something that you've undone. Okay. There are keyboard shortcuts that you can do as well. But let's look at that real quick. So if we go up to the very top, I haven't done anything yet, but as we work, we'll see the undo and redo button basically come alive. Come alive there, and then we can actually use them. Okay. So let's go ahead to our next page here. Let's start typing. Okay. And we're actually going to be doing a poem. And the idea of our poem is that we're going to be typing our inputting here, we'll insert a picture. We're going to have a header, then we're going to make changes to it, okay? So we can just kind of learn all the basic steps of writing a letter to begin with. What most people, and after doing the class for many years, this is mostly what people say. I want to know how to write a letter. I want to know how to change it. I want to know how to save a file, come back, find a file that I've saved. I want to know how to print the document, and then talk about some of the other options after that. And I go, okay, well, that's what we're going to cover. So let's go ahead and let's start typing. And I'm going to type these 3 lines here. And as you type that, and I'm actually going to do a cheat, I'm going to copy paste it, which we'll talk about copy paste in a minute. I'm going to copy paste it over there to do a cheat. But while you're typing, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about what our blinking cursor is and our other typing tips, okay? So when we look down at our keyboard, and I'm actually looking at a laptop keyboard, okay? Mine doesn't have the extra numbers here on the right side. That's fine because I always have the numbers right above the letters, okay? The main thing is wherever the blinking cursor is. So there's our blinking cursor. Wherever our blinking cursor is in general, we hit keys on the keyboard, that's what's going to appear there. We want to do capital letters, we hold down Shift and then hit the letter. Okay. Now, why is the layout of our keyboard? The interesting thing about that is there's a little bit of a discrepancy in the history. And the big thing is, discrepancy in the history thing. Oh, I disappeared there, didn't I? Discrepancy in the history of what our keyboard layout is. Basically, a lot of folks talked about it was, all based on the old classic typewriter, and that's the layout with the numbers and everything. And some people talked about one typewriter worked better than the other if it had this layout. I can tell you that there's a man that designed keyboard layouts, and he designed many of them. And one of the ones he designed was this, okay? And if I told you that he designed 2 other layouts after this, you may go, well, I figured after this, he'd say, oh, this is the best one. Well, apparently he didn't think that, so he actually designed 2 other letter layouts than this, but this is the one that all the typewriters companies started connecting with. This is the one they made. This became the standard. Now, the interesting thing is us going to the future, having digital things, cell phones, or anything like that. This is still the keyboard layout. Even though everything's virtual and we can organize the letters any way we want, this is still the way most people line up their keyboard. Okay, just a little side note for you. Why is the keyboard this way? We're not 100% sure. Okay. Now, a big thing with our keyboard in general is to kind of look down and you'll see the enter key. Okay. A lot of the Macs will actually say enter, return. Okay. When you're typing something, this really is the return key. When you're inputting data, this really is the enter key. The return moves you down to the next line. I've had many students that go, I don't really understand why I'm hitting enter. Well, you're really hitting the return key. Not all our keyboards say that when you're typing something, okay? So when you look at your keyboard, you see enter, kind of think enter, return key. And the keyboard I actually learned on actually did not say enter, it said return on it. So you'll actually hear me say hit the return key, okay? Now, a lot of our keyboards have the down to the right. So let me see if I do that for y'all. Down to the right arrow. Oh, I did it again. Down to the right arrow. Not down to the right. Yeah, anyway. Down to the right, because it's mirrored. Down to the right arrow so that you know that it's going to take you down to the next line and put you on the right side. Or excuse me, the left side. Excuse me, so down to the left. Yeah, thank you. I don't know what I was thinking. All right, so of course we have our classic backspace key, which should have an arrow on it. If it doesn't, just realize that deletes to the left. Well, deletes to the left. I got to mirror everything with my little hand gestures here. And then some people say, well, what's the delete key do? Well, the delete key actually deletes to the right. There we go. So the backspace deletes to the left, and the delete key deletes to the right over the blinking cursor. Okay. So did you get your text typed? Now make sure that you're actually doing a misspelling here on the end with the mores. So we'll use our spell check here in a minute. So let me go ahead and pull it up. And we'll talk about copy paste a little bit later. So, did you get your 3 lines there typed? Okay. Hopefully you did. All right, so let's go down to our next line. Let's talk about our zoom. Okay. Now, I'm in the way a little bit, so I will disappear. But you should still be able to hear me, of course. So when we look at, if I get that, there it is. So we can actually do our zoom. Our zoom is to the bottom right. It's down here. It's our zoom level. You can press the plus button to zoom in, the minus button to zoom out. Okay. The other way that you can do zoom is if you have a computer touchpad or a touch screen, you can do a pinch and zoom with your fingers. Okay. So if I wanted to use that, yeah, hang on. So if I wanted to use that now, I go here, I hit the plus sign, and it just zooms in, and it looks bigger. Okay, and remember, this will not affect the way it looks if you do need to print anything. Okay. All right, now let's go to our next part. Any questions about that? All right, so let's talk about changing and formatting and that whole little section there. Okay. All right, so the easiest thing to do is, now a lot of folks will say, go ahead and type your text, or excuse me, go ahead and make your settings and then type your text. You can do that beforehand. You can click any of the settings on there, make it bold or anything like that before we get started, but I still recommend you typing something and then we're going to make changes. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we have our text typed and we're actually going to choose the My Favorite Candy. We're going to left click hold to the left and drag our mouse all the way over to the right to highlight the text. Okay. And then when we let go, it'll actually show that it's been selected or highlighted. So if I get in front of, My Favorite Candy, left click hold, drag to the right, there's My Favorite Candy selected. Okay. All right, now you may get a pop-up here box which will reflect the same buttons as up here. I'm not a big fan of that because it's not always there. So even though I just selected everything and I could have made a choice on that menu, now I moved away and it's not there anymore. So I don't teach for that. Now let's go ahead and start talking about our menu. Okay. So when we go up here, let's talk about our menu. The biggest thing is any of these icons, if we're not sure what they are, we can take our mouse and hover. So let's go ahead and hover over the big bold B. And a little drop down pops up, and what does it say? It says bold. Okay. So there's bold, hover over italics for italics. There's U for underline. So you kind of get to gist of what these things are just by taking your mouse and kind of hovering over it. Okay. So don't be intimidated in any way of what these things are because I can hover over them and it'll tell me what it is. Now let's talk about changing our menu. So they actually call this the ribbon, Microsoft does. We click insert. We can see there's a whole nother section here. Here's pictures and shapes. Okay. Here's our draw section if we wanted to draw something. We have a design and we also have a layout. So this is where we change our margins, our page orientation, and if we need to, our page size, which most don't. This is also where you can choose columns. This will make your paper kind of into a newspaper format. So let's say you're doing a newsletter and you needed to have 2 rows of text. Easiest thing to do is change the columns. Now, let's see. So you just hover over everything here, and we go to references. We can talk about all this other stuff here, and it'll let you know mailings. review, and if we go to review and we look on the far left, you should see something. Now if it's an older version than what I'm using today, because mine is the latest updated version, it may say spell check, grammar, but they've actually switched over to calling it editor. I'll be honest, I do not like calling it editor. I think that's confusing. But if you're unsure where something is, you can go up here and start typing in spelling to search, and boom, the spell checker will come up just like old times, okay? So this search bar up here allows you to search for features, tips. So if there's anything that you can't find for some reason, just do the search right here and it'll pop it up, okay? Now again, you may have heard me in some of the other classes say you still need to know the phrasing, the terminology, and basically what the programs call it. So this may not do you any good if you can't remember spelling and grammar. Go, oh, I want to fix those words on here. What's wrong with it? Well, it's called spelling. All right, and we also have one we'll talk about later, our read out loud. Okay, we have our view, which we can change. Okay, and we also have a newer thing. We actually do have a help that can actually help, and you can click help and that'll pop up as well. And there also is a contact support for office help as well. Okay, so let's go back to home and let's start talking about what we have. So the first thing we're going to talk about, now that we've selected our text, is we're going to talk about changing the font, font size, font color, bold, italics, and underline. Okay, changing case, text highlight, and text color. All right, so I have this selected. Let's talk about our font box area and our home tab. Okay, so these are our tabs. Let's go up here to our drop down. Now look at our fonts here. We actually get, as you see, we do get a preview, and I'll kind of move my text. I'll zoom out a little bit, see if that helps. It's still blocked. Anyway, we'll just play it straight here. So basically, if I do have the font box not blocking my text, I actually can get a nice little preview of whatever it is I want. So if I scroll down here and I hover over any of these things, you can see that if I click one, it'll change it immediately. Some classics are Arial Black. A big thing here is to think about your audience. What kind of audience do you have? Who's going to read this? Is this something for fun? Is this something for, I don't know, any kind of project you're working on? Maybe a fall festival or something, you want it to be fun, but make sure it's still legible to read, okay? So there are a lot of different fonts in the newer version of Word here. And think about fonts as kind of how a logo of a company like Coca-Cola or Disney, can you get fonts that will do Coca-Cola or Disney? Yes, there are, believe it or not. So we have a ton of different fonts. Some of the easiest ones that they talk about is Arial. There's just normal Arial that used to come with the computer. Calibri is what they're using now. Bookplate, and you can actually make it look like it was handwritten if you wanted to. Kind of old pirate. Now this is Candy, so I actually want to have something kind of fun, and I think it's called Curl, Curl. There it is, Curls. So it actually gives a little bit of curl on the extra there. So it makes it look a little bit like a candy cane. All right. So let's go ahead and let's do our size here. And I'm going to make it about 22 because I want it to be really big. And that's what this little drop down arrow does. And these two buttons are increase font size and decrease font size. So you can very quickly click that. Okay. Now this is a fun one. This is kind of more specific to Word. And if I hover over these, well, I think I have to click them, but it'll actually change the font. It'll actually change the casing, excuse me. So lowercase, uppercase, and then capitalize each word. So instead of you having to retype it to figure out exactly what you want, you can actually do it. But I just want capitalize each word, kind of like what we already had. Okay, but that gives you quick choice, and if you've already typed it, see, you can see what it is. So Word kind of expects you to type something, then come back and edit them. So I still recommend typing and then getting it all down on paper and then coming back later. Now, what does this do? This is our clear formatting button. If I hit this, it takes it all the way back to where it was if I had just written it. Okay, so if I just pull the computer up and just type that, that's what it does. It clears the formatting. So it undoes the font, anything else, any other settings that you've done, the color, anything like that, it'll actually have changed it. Now let's talk about our undo button. So I want to go back to where it was. I could just go up here and choose it, but if I go up here to my undo button, it'll actually go back. And if I do my drop down arrow here, I have a whole lot more choices. Also, here's our save button. If you want to use that, instead of hitting file and save, you can do save. Calls it the same name, but remember, I do have this new feature, this auto save feature that's available. All right, so let's talk about this lower area here. So I want to make it bold. I will tell you, hit the capital B, it'll make it bold. I will tell you that if you do have a if you choose a font and it already is bold, like if I go to Arial here, you'll see that there's an Arial black, and I believe that one is already bold. So if you do hit italics or bold and it looks like nothing happens, it may be because that font is already bolded. Okay. You also have italics if you wanted to use that. Now this is a neat one specifically to Word. Excel and PowerPoint do have an underline, but look at this. We actually click the drop down, we get a single underline, double underline, a thick underline, a dotted, and this one is kind of like a dashes, and we can actually customize the color, and there's even more underlines choices. Okay, we can customize it a bit. The other programs won't let you do that, which is interesting. So I'm going to click the one here that looks kind of like a candy cane to me. Okay. So it does kind of lead into it being about candy. Let's talk about our other two areas here. The first one is we actually have a strike through. That is mostly for proofreading. Okay, so if you allowed, and I do recommend if you have something important to do, you're going to put send to a boss, send to, put out to the world, an email you're going to send, as a newsletter or something. Always have a proofreader to read over something. They may read something that, or read it a different way than you're saying it, or go, this needs more clarity, or this is still kind of muddy. So definitely always have a proofreader before it's something really important to send out. Okay. So this is for our math, to be able to do subscript and to be able to do postscript. Okay. Now this is a fun one over here, and we're finishing up talking about our fonts, our last three here. Here's our drop down. This is kind of like the old version where they said was called Word Art. So do you remember Word Art? Yeah? Remember Word Art? Okay. Well, this is kind of like the new version of Word Art. Okay. And with this new version, it's interesting because we can highlight everything, and you do the little drop down here, and you kind of do a little bit of a preview. That looks kind of neat, actually. Kind of clarifies it, gives it a little bit of shadow. Some fun things that you can do. Has, like I said, some templates here. And if you want to, you can actually choose a different outline, a shadow. Make sure that if you are going to add something that's a shadow, make sure whatever you print has a very clear output. Okay. There's a nice reflection. There's a glow. Okay. So that's really a neat thing to have and set up as well. Now, since we actually have, I've not selected that because I've kind of made some of the things by hand. Let's talk about our highlighter. So our text highlighter, this isn't really the background color. This is actually supposed to be a highlight, okay? An actual highlighter. So if you had a bunch of pages and you wanted to make it look like it's important to make sure that you read it, you just click there and it highlights the text. Now, once you highlight something, you click it to unhighlight it or select it, and you might have to choose no color, but you can choose other colors. But this is really supposed to be a highlighter, so highlighting things just like if you pulled a highlighter in a book, okay? All right, now let's talk about our font color. Now, if you do get the opportunity to actually print anything in color, it does cost more, especially if it's a handout. Now, if we're doing stuff digitally, that may not matter as much, of course, but still, if you do get that option, definitely use it. Kind of think about when we drive down the road and we see billboards on the side of the road. You know, you'll see them with big font. Let's say it's like a pest control company, you know, bug stoppers, and then below that it's smaller with a italics, we stop them dead, and then it has their phone number maybe in a different color, different location. So think about that when you're trying to do something to catch the eye. Don't let it just be, you know, boring text. Let it be interesting, that catches someone's eye, makes it interesting. So if we did want to change the font color, I go here, and the first one is red, but they actually say not to put your text in red or yellow because if someone is colorblind, they may actually not be able to read it. I had a family member that was colorblind, and it can make reading difficult. So they actually say not to do that. Now, if we do go here, and we didn't want it just to have the basic black, if we could actually, and I do recommend this, if you could choose a dark color, let's say a dark blue like this, you can already tell that it helps you distinguish the colors from each other when you're reading. And it's very clear, easy to read, and all it is just a dark color. So this is like a dark yellow. Let's see, a dark, or even just a little bit of a off gray a little bit too. So definitely kind of play around with your colors. Here's a dark green. And even if I chose a really, really dark red for text, it could turn out, because someone colorblind, it may look a different color or grayish. So it could make it difficult. So probably a dark blue would be nice. Okay, so we've actually messed around with our different font section here. We've got it bolded. We've got some interesting things going on. Let's go ahead and come to our next part here. So we kind of covered all our topics here. Let's talk about our page alignment, okay? So one of the things is I actually want my favorite candy to be centered in the middle, okay? So let's do it. So if we go back to our handout, and I actually don't have to select the area. I just actually need to be on the same row. Let's talk about our centering. So let's go to the section that says paragraph now, okay? So the first thing, by default, it's actually set to align to the left, okay? And if I go here, I can actually click the next one. If I hover it, it'll say center. So let me click that. And again, you don't have to have it selected, you just have to be on the same row. Now if I want it to be all the way on the right side, there you go. Puts it all the way to the right side by clicking that one. Now, this one here, justified, is mostly made up, so if you do use the columns, it'll actually spread it out kind of like a newspaper, but most of the time it won't look like it did anything. But I actually just want it to be centered. Okay. All right, so let's go back to our handout. And that's kind of our example: left, middle, and then right. Okay. So let's talk about our bullet points. Now, I'm actually going to add 3 words, and we'll mess around with our bullet points. Okay. So we're doing candy, and I'm going to do the copy paste, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. So we have Snicker, Lemonhead, and Gumball. Remember to go down to the next line, we just hit the enter key. Now, one of the things I will get asked is, how can I make it so it's not a hard return? And the way we actually do that is, instead of hitting enter, we actually hold down shift and hit enter. And that'll take it down, not a full new paragraph, but it just takes you down basically to the next line. So that's a question I've been asked more and more lately. So a shift and enter will take you down one line, but if you hit just the main enter, it's like going down to the next paragraph. Okay. All right, so let's talk about our bullet points and numbering too. Okay. Oh, that should be listed as numbering. Oh, there we go. So main buttons here are bullet points. So let's talk about that, and we'll talk about increasing and decreasing our indentation, okay, which is our big thing that we want to learn how to do, and that's these 2 buttons right here. Increase and decrease. So if I highlight the whole section here, okay, how do I highlight the whole section? Left click, hold, move to the right and down, and you'll have all that selected. Now let's go up here and let's talk about our bullet points, and I just click where it says bullet points. Boom, it's made bullet points. Now we saw a ton of different options for underline, and we also saw a bunch of options for the we saw underline. We saw a bunch of options for underline. We also saw a bunch of options for the fonts as well. Well, how many different bullets do we get? Well, if I do our drop down arrow, we'll see that's all we get. Okay, that's all the ones you get. Now, one of the things is, if you did want to, let's say, make a list with a checkbox system and like give it to someone, it's a lot easier because PowerPoint actually in their bullets, and I don't know why this is, we're still dealing with 2019, it's just one of those things that they don't have. Had another student say I use wingdings to be able to do that. And yes, you can. There is a wingding that looks like a box, but if you just make a list in PowerPoint instead of Word, there is one that looks more like a box than like the circle or whatever. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. And that's kind of project based on what you're trying to learn as well. So we have our main ones. We can do arrows, we can do check marks and all that. Now, What if I want to make, let's say, Lemonhead a sub underneath Snickers? Okay, so all I got to do, I don't have to select the same row. I just have my blinking cursor on the same row, and then we go up here and we look at these two buttons here. Now, you could technically do that by hitting tab, but this is a lot easier to figure out by doing this by these two buttons to begin with, okay? It'll be a lot less confusion because this is what the computer kind of wants you to use straight out of the gate, okay? So we have our decrease, which it's at all the way to the left right now. So I'm going to click where it says increase indentation, and you'll see now it's a sub. In a minute, we'll talk about how to change what you want the bullet points to look like, okay? So now Lemonheads is sub underneath Snicker, and I want to make Gumball equal to Lemonhead, so I click the Gumball one, I do increase indentation, and now these are the same level. This is our header, excuse me, this is our top level, sub level 1, or I guess it'd be sub level 1, yeah. And then if I want Gumball to be underneath Lemonhead, a sub level 3, I click increase, and then there you go. There you go. So it's like 1, 1, 1. Now, here's the clincher. How do I bring it back? Well, all I got to do is I go up here and I click the opposite button that says decrease indentation, and then boom, it brings it right back. Okay? So I want to bring Lemonheads back. I'll click Lemonhead and click back. And then I can click Gumball, and then if I want to bring it back, I click back, and then they're equal again. Okay, that's my really big secret for bullet points. Now, let's say I don't want it to be bullet points. I actually want it to be numbers. Okay, so if I highlight all my section here, and I'll go up here, and I'm actually going to click numbers instead. Create number list. Boom. Now it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you've ever tried to work on anything while you're working on it and it have 1, 2, and 3, and then the 3 messes around and you hit backspace and then it gets chaotic, don't worry about it. Put your information, then worry about having your numbering. Okay, so here's a classic 1, 2, 3, and if I want to make Lemonhead just like I did before with the bullet points, a sub level 1, I go here and I want to, but here how we have numbering, so I want the Snicker to be 1 and I want Gumball to be 2. I click Lemonhead, I click increase indentation, and then boom, it automatically does it. Okay. Now, I'll talk about how to change the numbers and stuff in a minute. So we have Snicker, we have Lemonhead. What if I want Gumball to be the same as we did before? I do increase indentation. Now they're equal, increase indentation again, and it's a sub. Okay. So how do I go back? Do I hit backspace? No. Just click there, say decrease indentation, decrease, and then we do decrease, and then it goes right back to what numbers, okay? Now, how do I control what the numbers are? Because some people are like, I want numbers and I want letters and all that. Well, if I highlight here, our next button here says multi-level list, okay? Now with the drop down, it'll show me what multi-level list will be. Okay, this is kind of the classic one here. So if I do the sub, you get a little bit more of a feeling. There you go. So does that make sense now? So with that, I can choose here and then choose what I want it to be. And this helps you do lists or any kind. Now you go, okay, well, I want to customize it. Well, all you do is you go down here and you say define new list and you create your own. Okay, so if there's specific order that you need things to do for like a table of contents or something, there you go right there. Okay, so I'm actually going to send it back. There you go, 1, 2, 3. Any questions about that? Okay, so hopefully you've just grasped the secret. Secret is decrease and increase the indentation buttons, okay? Now let's talk about our copy paste. Now copy paste has gotten a little bit more complicated, okay? but I don't want it to confuse you because out of the box we actually have more paste options than we did in the past, okay? But we're still going to talk about that. So the big thing is we want to, we're in Word, so we're going to use our copy paste box area. First we need to select our text and we'll talk about our different options, okay? Now first thing it's going to have is cut. Cut is similar to copy, but it also deletes what you have selected as well, okay? So a lot of the time I actually don't use cut. I'll copy, paste something, and then just go back and delete the original later, which is very easy to do, and I know what I've copied is exactly what I want it to be, okay? So let's go ahead and let's do that together. Whoop. Sorry. All right, so I'm just going to basically copy these two lines and then put them down here, okay? So I'm going to highlight or select, left click, hold, drag to the right and down. So I'm going to do 2 lines, and let's go up to our clipboard. Now like I said, you could use cut, but it also deletes what's there if you click it and hit undo. So I'm going to use the copy, so I click copy. Now the clincher here is I need to get my blinking cursor where I want it to paste, okay? So wherever my blinking cursor is, when I hit paste, that's where it's going to go. So I'm actually going to hit enter here to put in a return, okay? And then let's go to paste. Now if I do the drop down where it says paste, it's actually going to give me a bunch of different options. I just want the straight up normal paste right now, and then we'll talk about our other paste options, okay? This is kind of more of a 2019 edition. So if I go up here and I just click the classic clipboard, it'll just paste what's there, okay? Now let's go and click where it says paste, and we get a whole bunch of different options, okay? Don't let this confuse you because the normal paste is still there. It's very easy to use. You just copy paste and there it is. But now with the newer version, and that's where here talking about the newer version, there you go right there. Yes, Mac, you can paste it into a different file. Yes, you can. This also deals with, and I'll show you how to do the right click copy, which you can do all across Windows as well, okay? So we have our copy, we have our blinking cursor, let's click the paste, and we actually get 4 different options, and let's walk through them. The first one is just our standard paste. It'll say keep source formatting, but that is just our standard paste. It's the paste we just did a minute ago. Don't let that confuse you, okay? Now if I go to the next one here, it'll say merge formatting. Don't let that bother you either. Mostly that's if you're copying something off the internet, okay? So if you're copying some text from, let's say, a website, and when you paste it in here normally it's not looking right, you may want to mess around with some of the other options. This next one will actually paste it as a picture and it will not be editable anymore, okay? So most of the time you don't want to do that. This one is a specialty one. It says keep text only. So let's say you're copying something, let's say you're doing a newsletter, you need some information, let's say for a blood drive and it's specific information, you're copying it from their website, you're pasting it here, the formatting is odd, you don't want to have to fight the formatting, maybe it's in bold or a different font that you don't like, instead of having to fix all that, which you could highlight it and use our clear formatting as we talked about earlier. But if you choose where it says keep text only, that means if you're copying something, it's only going to keep that text, and it's going to make it real easy to edit your text. It'll be just like if you had typed it, okay? So that's our different options with paste, and it does do a little preview to let you know. So if you're copying something from a website and it's got underlines and it's different colors or whatever, probably paste it by choosing the keep text only, and then it should clear that up. Okay. I know that's a little bit odd, but it is. But there you go. So let's talk about our other copy paste options. The easiest one for international use, meaning anywhere in Windows. So basically, if I can do that real quick, give me 1 second. Okay, so I have an article pulled up about the best office chairs by CNET. Okay, so here's an article about the best office chairs available, and I go, oh, I really want to copy this and then put it in an email, or I want to put it in a document so I can edit it. Okay, so all I do is I do my classic selecting my text. Now there is no button up here that says copy paste. Now I do know that in this program, if I go to this button here, it will be available, but do realize it may not always be available in any of the menus. So let me try to get used to using the copy paste method, okay, by using the keyboard. So all I do is I hold down Control and C, and then when I go back to my document, I get my blinking cursor, and then I do Control and V, and then boom, it pastes my text. Okay, and I'm going to do an undo, so get rid of all that. Now again, if I was copying off the internet and I did paste, and I want it to be blank, there it is, just like if I just typed it. I'll do undo. Now the other way to do our copy paste is the right mouse click. Okay, so I highlight what I want, and I can even show that here. I highlight what I want to select, I let go, I get on top of this text I selected, I right click, and then I'll see the menu that says copy, and I click copy, and then I get my blinking cursor, and if I right click wherever my blinking cursor is, I'll see my different options. And there's a different option that even gives a little preview. Okay, so the copy paste works all throughout Windows 10, just like we showed you. You can do the keyboard shortcut, the right click, or you can use the word menu as well. Okay. All right, so let's keep moving here. Let's talk about our spell check. Now, like I said, the latest version, and I'm keeping it on here so it still makes sense, I guess. Our latest version, it's under View tab. And if we look at our, I'll clean this up a little bit here. If we look underneath, we'll actually see a red underline, okay? Now, how do we get to our spelling and grammar? Well, first, we need, the red means that it thinks it's red underline, meaning the spelling is wrong, okay? Green means it thinks the grammar is wrong, okay? So if we go to Review and we click Spelling and Grammar, now remember this version of Word, which is our latest version, we click Review, it doesn't say Spelling and Grammar. What does it say? It says Editor, okay? So just be aware of that. So we click Editor, and here it's doing spelling and grammar. Why does it called Editor instead? I don't know. Maybe they'll go back to it. I think it is confusing. All right, so let's talk about our options here. It pops up and says, thinks this whole document, it scans the whole document. It says there's one spelling issue, okay? So I'm going to click that. And then it pops up and says, sweet the better, the sour the more. And it gives you some suggestions. It says mores, more, or moral, I guess. Now, the big thing here is I can actually have some options. The easiest thing to do is just click there, and it'll basically fix it. I do have an options of I can ignore it, ignore once, or I can tell it to ignore the whole document, or the dangerous part is I can click where it says add to dictionary. So if this is someone's name, maybe it doesn't recognize it, you could add it to the dictionary. Just make sure that whatever you're spelling is spelled right before you click add to dictionary, because it's difficult to get it back. Okay, so I'm going to click where it says more. And click again, and then it fixed it. So there we are. There's our more. And I'm going to hit save. And I'm going to click X to close that. All right, so let's talk about inserting a picture and some of our new picture options, okay? Now, let's go ahead and let's click Insert, and then let's click Pictures. Now, you can browse what you have on your hard drive and find a picture that way. I'm actually going to use the new built-in photo image scanner. Well, it's not a search, not really a scanner, it's a search to find a picture, kind of something similar, kind of a piece of candy is kind of what I'm looking for. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's do that. So I go up, I click Insert, and then when I click Pictures, I actually have some options here. I have where it says this device, stock images, or online photos. So if I hover, it'll actually say, unleash your imagination with premium content from the stock image library. Find online pictures, find and insert pictures from a variety of online sources. So I can already tell you, so if I don't have the picture I want for my hard drive, if I did, I'd click there, probably search in the pictures folder. If I click stock images, some of these might cost, so do realize that. And if I say candy, let's see, that doesn't really work out to be what I want it to be. So I'm going to hit cancel, and now I'm going to click pictures and say online pictures, and this actually searches the Bing photos, okay, similar to Google Photos. So if I say candy, now the big check here, it says Creative Commons only. So these supposedly are pictures and images that can be used. Now I'm not doing anything selling any product that I'm putting an image on or anything like that, because I should ask the image creator if I can use that, if that was so. And if you scroll down a little more, there's live, there we go. So there's our candy right there, is what we want. There's one that has a stick on it. And one has a stick. Now, of course, I could go back and get more specific, but we'll just use this one because that's fine. So I click it, and then I click Insert. Now, I have had it, sometimes it'll insert this bottom part. Sometimes you need this if it's something that maybe for profit in any way, which we're just going to use this just as our example. You can erase that if you wanted to. All right, so if we have our picture here, let's start talking about resizing our picture. And the way we resize our picture is by grabbing the corners, okay? So if we go to the corners here, and we'll get at an angle, double arrow, left click, hold, I can make it smaller, okay, maybe to fit more into what I want. I could make it larger if I want to. I will tell you this, one negative thing is if it's a small picture you're making larger, it could make it more blurry. So do realize that. Big pictures you can make, any size smaller you want. You take a small picture, make it bigger. It can make it not look very good. Okay, it's the best way I can say that. So let's talk about editing our image. Now, with our image, we actually get a new tab called Format. And if we click on our image, we should see where it says Picture Format. Now, if you click away, the picture format will disappear. And if we click on the picture again, that's when the picture format should reappear. But if for some reason it doesn't, see, like it's not doing it now, I have to go up there and click. If you do have problems, then double click the picture and it'll always pull it back up. Okay, so if you are having problems finding that in any way, just double click the picture and it'll actually pull it up. Okay, so let's talk about our options here. Well, some of our biggest options are being able to have our own picture stylized automatically for us. So let's go ahead and play around with that for a minute. We can choose different. Here we go. Yeah, I kind of like that. It's just a nice little kind of a drop shadow to it. If we hover over this, it'll give us some different options. And very quick, as you can see, very quickly. Now, this is one of those things where, personally, I'll see people do newsletters and handouts and PowerPoint presentations. And the images may look good. The text may look okay. But if they had just taken an extra 2 seconds almost, they could have made their presentation a lot more interesting. Maybe kind of stylizing their graphic a little bit. Maybe giving it a nice little border. Maybe working with it some. Okay. So there's our pre-made stuff if you want to get more specific. Sometimes you just need to give your picture just a nice little border. Okay. That does happen. You click border here and you can choose the color. Maybe a red, maybe you want it to be black or nothing. And then there's other picture effects. This kind of represents, so these are the pre-made ones, and this kind of represents the other ones as well. Okay, like reflections and glow and soft edge and all that kind of good stuff. Okay. So a lot of really cool options there very quickly. So let's talk about our next section here. So in a minute we'll be moving our picture around, okay, and we'll actually try to get our text to kind of encompass around our shape here. Let's talk about and we'll talk about that in a second. So let's talk about our corrections here. So you could click this, make it brighter, darker. Imagine if this was kind of a landscape picture, you could make changes there too. Very quick and easy. You may notice that it needs some sharpening or some kind of graphics. So instead of having to pull it into a separate graphics program, very easily we can just kind of make these choices. Now this is a neat one because you can actually change the color of your graphic. So let's say I don't want it to be red, and this is kind of a clip art. I can actually completely change the color. Okay. So it's going to recolor it, and I have a lot of variations that I can mess around with too. See, make it green if I wanted to, purple, and it's kind of a very quick, easy thing to do. Like I said, again, you don't have to pull it into some kind of extra program or anything like that. It's right there. Let's look at artistic effects. This is kind of interesting. Maybe look like it's a hand drawn. That's really neat. That works really well. That does look like it's hand drawn now, doesn't it? A little bit more blurry. See if that's processing that. It looks like glass. Yeah. all kinds of neat things. Changing it artistic, make it look like squares. Little squares. So a lot of different options. And what about transparency? Now, here's our transparency. One thing is if you have a picture and if you are thinking about, I want to make this the background, one thing you could do is change the transparency to make it lighter, or maybe just light enough so that your text could still be there. So that's what we're going to do here in a minute. So let's do that. Now you could also choose to remove the background. I'm going to click remove background. This may seem a little bit advanced, so I'm going to mark the areas to remove. I want to make sure. Let me say keep changes. See, oh, that's not what I want. So I'm going to mark areas to keep. I want it to do it all the way. See if that'll do it. It's close. Can you do it further out? Okay, let's see. Okay, I don't know if that's going to work too well on this, but the idea is if you did want it to have like it was a jagged shape, you can have your text kind of fit around it. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start talking about the wrapping. Okay, so normally if I have a picture and I want to move it around, so I grab my picture, I left click hold, and then I'm like, okay, I want to move it up here, I want to put it over here, up, and it does that, and you're like, okay, well that, oh, what? Now it's in the middle. What? Why is it doing? No, that's not what I wanted it to do at all. So out of the gate, if you don't know how to do this, it will make it seem like Word doesn't like pictures at all. So we need to learn about wrapping. Okay. So if I take my picture and I put it up here, that's not what I want it to do. So let me go back, double click on my thing or click picture format. Let's go ahead and go here where it says position. So if you want that, you can change that setting. If you want to include your picture, it'll kind of mess around with it like that. See? But I want to control it more. So right now my text wrapping is in line with text. So no matter where I put the picture, it's going to create a whole space for it to be like that. I want it to more or less float around. So I'm going to click square, see what happens. So it's square, I can do this with it. It's still going to kind of fit around my picture, but this may be a little bit closer to what you had in mind, but it's still affecting the text. So you may not want that at all. You may want to make it still float. So if I do text wrap and I say tight, that's a little bit better, okay? But still not really what I want. So if I say through, or if I say behind text, I'm going to say behind text for right now because that's kind of our goal. So if I move this, it will float. Ooh, how about that? Fancy. So that is actually the behind the text. There's an in front of text, so it'll always be in front. It's very light, so you can't really tell that. But that could be messing around with trying to get rid of the background as well. So if I go here, and I'm actually going to tell it behind the text right now. It has more options, but I actually want this to be kind of, let's see, being round like that. It may not work out exactly the way I want. But if I put in an indentation here, there you go. I think that kind of works out. But anyway, you can play around with it more, or make the, the whole picture bigger so it kind of encompasses everything. But anyway, you kind of get the gist. Now that I've made it light, I can have it as the background, and there I am, and it's kind of neat. Makes it kind of point out. It's a little bit more advanced than just your basic editing a picture. Okay. All right. So we can also crop our picture in there as well. So for some reason you choose this and you go up here, you can do crop. and that kind of cuts off parts of it. So if you didn't want all of it on there, it's kind of interesting. That may actually do well with cropping it. If I cropped off this side, actually, if I actually did that and then pushed it to the wall, see if I can make it larger. It's kind of a little more interesting, isn't it? Anyway, so you never know. Or maybe make it dip from the ceiling. Anyway, so I don't want to get into that too much. So you can crop it, change the size of it. You could do rotation if you want to. So it's a lot of things that you can do just here in Word or in PowerPoint with the graphic without having to go someplace else. Okay. So let's start talking about our printing. So we've made our poem, we've added our graphic to it, and let's start talking about our printing. So when we click print, we get a nice print preview. Okay. We get a nice print preview. So let's go ahead and let's do that now. So Word, File, and then Print. Here's our print preview. I think it's kind of interesting that way. I could play around with it a little bit more, kind of get some more ideas. So first we actually have our normal print button. So this is basically, you pull this up, and if all the settings were the way you wanted them to be, basically just hit print and you're good to go. Here's where you can change the number of copies you want. Let's say you want 5 copies, change it to 5. Now I'm not actually connected to a printer, so I can't really show those options, but I'll talk about some of our other settings here. So a big one is you can tell it which page you want. Let's say this was a 10-page document and you only want to print page 2. All you do is you put a 2 in there and it's only going to print page 2. Let's say it was a 10-page document and you wanted to print page 2 through 9 for some reason, 2 through 9, and you can actually see a print preview here and zoom in and zoom out as well. And this is a pretty accurate depiction of what it'll look like when it prints. Now, you can actually do printing on both sides. If you do actually use a printer that uses the old term, they called it duplexing. If you do manually, it'll actually print, let's say, the odd number pages, pull it out, put it back in, different way. You may have to learn your printer to be able to do this, and then it'll print on the opposite side, and then you can, of course, have printed on both sides. Just some other different project settings here I won't go into. But another thing you can do is if you are interested in, let's say, saving some money on some ink or anything, if you actually go and click the print properties, this will actually bring up the software that came with your printer. Okay, so if you click print properties, you can actually navigate to where it says print quality. It should be set to normal, not best, but normal. Maybe switch it to draft, fast draft, print, see if that's too light. If it's too light, then go back to normal, but it could save you some money on just printing some ink. Now, save you money on, printing. The other thing you can do is you can actually go into the settings, change the color to grayscale, maybe tell it to only use the black cartridge if your printer uses a black cartridge, and then the 3 color scheme cartridge, then there you go right there, tell it grayscale. Or if you are printing something and the text comes out blue, it may be because your color cartridge is low, and when you're printing something, it's actually using some of that to make it a little bit more, grayscale, have a little bit more shading in there. You get to go in there, tell it to print with the black cartridge only, you'll be good to go. Okay, so let's see, any other main questions? And I did not mean to close that. Any other main questions about printing or anything? So I'm going to click the back button here. Now that we have kind of our project, And before we start talking about our templates, let's talk about a little bit of our extra things that we can do in our Windows 2019 here. One thing that's really big is that you can actually have it read aloud to you as well. So let me see what my volume is. So if I actually go up here, and yours may or may not be set to be in this area. If it's not, if you go to the Home tab, and where is it? Hold on. That's our dictation setting. I always use it up there, so I know it's on in the menu someplace else. So give me a second here. Anyway, I know it's in there. It is. So under review, you can set read aloud. So if you don't have the read aloud up here, it can hear. So let's try it.
More. Snicker. Lemonhead. Gumball.
So it actually did not start at the beginning, and I can actually go here and change some of the settings. And there are some different voices that you can choose that comes with Microsoft. I won't go into it, but there are better voices if you wanted to pay to download one, but there's different services that sell the different voices.
Gumball.
Okay, go back up to the top.
My favorite candy. I love to go to the candy store. The sweet the better, the sour the more. Snicker. Lemonhead. Gumball.
So not only can you have it, you know, with your text here, you can change who you want to read.
Candy.
No, start from the top.
My favorite candy. I love to go to the candy store. The sweet the better, the sour the more. Snicker. Lemonhead. Gumball.
And there you go right there. We also have a feature that is translator, which I won't go into that too much, but you can actually, it has a better translator than it used to, and translate from English back and forth. The rest of the main things are kind of project based, depending on what kind of project you're working on. Let's see, what was another newer thing I was going to show you. The drawing is a newer thing. I'm not real big into that, but if you wanted to, you can actually insert like a canvas and then have drawing going on. I don't know. That's more or less whatever project you're working on. I haven't found a big use for it. So, but that is one of the newer features, and they talk about that a lot, is the draw feature and inserting a canvas. Okay. The other thing is, let's see, we can actually insert 3D models as well. So I'm going to go up here and show the 3D models. And you can say insert from stock 3D models. And this will actually pop up. This actually is Microsoft's 3D section. I will say, because this is a newer feature that the Microsoft products are getting, it's being able to get, here's the little animated ones. Let's see. Like a dinosaur. Let's get our dinosaur here. Now with Word, we're kind of more or less thinking about something we're printing, you know, and it's not in 3D. So, but this is a character. You see him. Again, we're trying to talk about new things that you can do. This is one of the new things, and these things are incorporated in the Word and PowerPoint, Excel and PowerPoint as well. Okay. So he is animated, and I can actually change the size, and like you saw, I can actually change section here. Now if I go up here to the top, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Again, double click him and the whole thing will come up. So let's see, different views, which I kind of already doing that. Let's see. There you go. So it's kind of new. It's something you may or may not have a project to do something like that with. You know, it depends on what your project is. Now, if I do insert and I say 3D models and I choose ones that aren't animated, so let's choose something that's not animated. Let's just type in candy. It's just basically another way for us to get, there you go, another way to us to get a graphic. So here's our graphic. Go up here to the top. Now it's a 3D object, so I can actually choose how I want to turn it around. Maybe I want it to be at a certain angle, and whatever options they, you know, allow for me to have, you know, up here. So there you go. So that's kind of new with 2019 is our 3D models. Okay. Let's see, what was another thing that I'm using? Of course, we have our icons. They have newer things that you can do too. This is new. So let's say you're trying to illustrate something and you want, these are kind of like emojis. So if you just want to add a cute little quick graphic to something, let's see, candy, see what it says. So stickers. So something that's not really a picture. A lollipop. Just want to kind of include it. Again, it's a picture, so I have to go back to the wrapping. So I don't know. It depends on what project you're working on, I guess. But there you go. So now I have a logo with whatever it is. It's a simple graphic as well. So that's kind of a newer thing. The icons and you know, the rest of it is kind of project based, what you're working on. Okay, so I'm going to hit save on that. And let's go ahead and let's start talking about our templates. So our templates kind of get you started with what you want to do. One negative thing about the templates I can tell you is that they do have a bit of a section where it is controlling, and you may or may not be able to easily change that. Okay, so how do I get to the templates? We do File, New, and then we can browse through the templates that are offered. So let's go in and do that. So I'm going to hit File, I'm going to hit New, and then we actually get a list of our templates down here. And just kind of give you some ideas. Resumes, calendars. Here's a calendar. Polished resumes. Now all these are free because it's all through Microsoft. An appointment book. Reports. Students. Here's even a certificate. And because this is Word, these are a little bit more just you know, paper based. If you ever done any work for someone and said, hey, can you give me an invoice? And you're like, oh, I don't know. I would just go to Word, click New Template, choose this, type in your name, and then boom, you look professional, and you have a nice template, have a nice invoice. Okay. Here's awards, and if you want to search for more things, resume is a big one. You just do you just search here. It'll come up with a ton of them. Okay, all kinds of different options. Some that have a real fun layout to them. Some of these, they even want you to include the picture. I've heard in resumes it's good to have a picture and sometimes it's bad to have a picture. So The big thing is to have a resume that's only one page. But you can kind of choose that for yourself. And like I said, there's tons of resumes here. And you pretty much just fill in the blank. And I'll click this one real quick to show. And I've even had folks say, well, why don't you do a resume class? It goes, well, we have done a resume class in the past, but mostly it's ideas, and then we just kind of pull up Word and show you where some templates are, because it's more to need to focus on the content than exactly what it is. But yeah, so as you see, something has popped up here, and apparently this version of Word 2019 is actually connected up with, it looks like LinkedIn a little bit. Oh, they're going to give me some suggestions. There you go. So some suggestions to kind of get started on doing some resumes. So that's kind of a cool idea. So you'll actually see that in the design section. And where is... Anyway, there is when you do photos, you get a nice design as well. So let me see. Close that. Let's see. Table layout. Where's my design ideas? Wheel. I know it pops up automatically in PowerPoint. Shape, format. Layout. Okay. Anyway, I'll figure it out here in a minute. Maybe because it's a template. Effects, page color. Okay. Anyway, so I can basically click this, click insert, see, and we'll just do an animal. We'll do bird. There you go. Mr. Robin is needs a new resume. So, well, that didn't do what I wanted to. That's what I usually do. Because it's a template. Well, I don't know why it's doing that. If I delete that picture. There you go. So Mr. Bird here. Picture format. I want it to be kind of a circle. There we go. A little smaller, I guess. It fits. There you go. So Mr. Bluebird, type in there. Talk about the job title, Mr. Bluebird's working for, and you kind of fill in the blank with the information. Okay. And then after that, now the only problem is sometimes templates can be difficult to work with, but do realize if you don't like it, there are certain changes you can make. So like I can go hello. And blah, 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 blah. And then contact information, everything's already kind of set up. Okay. So if you are having any problems with it, just realize there's certain sections you can erase as well. It's a little bit better there. All right, so Mr. Bluebird now has a new resume. Okay, it looks pretty good. Not sure exactly what you would do with this, but it is like a chart. It would probably be best to delete this and list the things that you believe are skills you have, like Word or PowerPoint or anything like that. Big one, of course, is you want to say that you've worked with the latest version of the software as well. Okay, so we kind of talked about our templates. Let's talk about a little bit about some of our online training that's free through Microsoft. So you basically come here, support.microsoft.com, training. You can click Word, and they have some things that are broken up. And a lot of the times they have videos. Here's about working with the 3D models. Oh, it has a template I'm supposed to open. Anyway, so they have some walkthrough stuff, a lot more interesting stuff that has videos.
Your best work begins with an idea. And we'll show you how Word brings your ideas to life with collaboration, editing tools, and design. Start composing in your own words, and then format text with themes. If you'd like to collaborate, share your document on OneDrive with a click. Then chat, comment, and co-author documents to work with others at the same time. You can even make Skype calls from your document to brainstorm on the spot. While review and track changes, keep everyone on the same page. Polish your words with powerful proofing tools and style suggestions from Editor. And with a web browser or the Word mobile app, you can view and edit docs from wherever and whenever a thought strikes. Learn how to bring out your best writing with Word. Let's get started.
All right, there you go. And that's talking about the
Your
cloud
best
service with the Office 360. Now, other training too on Extra. Well, through the library, you can actually try the Universal class and learn a lot more with them than what we just cover in our basic classes here. And it is free through the library. Go to gchrl.org, click through the menu. You do have to have your library card, a username with the library. Go to the Universal class, sign in through them, and then they'll actually help you set all that stuff up. Here's just a few little bit extra tips here, and also talk about saving as a PDF and doing save as well. So a little bit of extra to take with you and everything. So let's talk about what we covered today. We covered a lot, didn't we? Okay. If I can get back up to the top here. We talked about starting a Word document, saving a document, using undo and redo. Some basic typing we learned, zooming in on our text. We talked about using our home tab and then changing formatting, selecting text, changing fonts, font size, font color, bold, italics, underline. We talked about using the alignment. We talked about doing the bullet points and numbering. And of course, learning our increase and decrease indentions. We talked about cutting and pasting, using spell check or the new editor, inserting picture, editing our image some, and then we talked about printing, templates, and also how to get some extra help and tips as well. So let's go ahead and let's wrap class up. And I actually have it. Oh, it should have. Sorry. There we go. So basically, let's talk about some of the classes we have coming up. So tomorrow we have our Excel class, and then on Thursday our PowerPoint class, and in the morning we're going to be doing Raspberry Pi computing projects at 11 o'clock with me live. We'll be doing that on Wednesday and Thursday, so come join with me. We're doing a bunch of fun projects. We're going to be finishing up our GPIO music box that we have going on, and then the end of the month we're going to do in photography basics, fundamentals with cloud backup, editing layers and photo editing and layers, photo printing and virtual scrapbooking, and then we'll finish up with creating videos and basic editing. On our other classes, of course, will be here on our YouTube channel. We'll be doing cord cutting on the 30th in the morning. On the 23rd, we're going to be doing gadget help, and then chess on the 24th. I don't know why I said 11th. Little side note, our libraries are open with limited services and hours. Curbside holds pickup is available. You can go to gchrl.org for details. And of course, call into the library Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you'll be up to date when I become live, or if any of the other librarians become live with videos as well, and you'll be updated on information. Please hit subscribe. We're trying to hit 100 so that we can get our own personal channel name. We have to have 100 subscribers to be able to do that on YouTube. If you're looking for our YouTube channel, the easiest way to find it, and you're on it right now, easiest way to find it is search YouTube for GCHRL videos, and it'll pull right up. Okay. All right, so we've come to the end of our class. Hope you learned something new. And any other final questions or anything? Oh, I did say I was going to put the handout. So give me 1 second. I can do that. Give me a moment and I will post that. Okay, very good. You're welcome, Mac. Thank you for coming. And as to everybody, thank you for coming. Hope you learned something new. I posted the handout in the chat so you can click the link to download it. And I will see you guys next time. It's a beautiful day outside. Fall weather is coming. Yay. So go outside, get some exercise, and stay safe. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.